Welcome to Tuesday, October 20th, 2020. A bunch of 20s going on there. 10, 20, 20. Mr. Parrott here with your science lesson for today. It's going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to go through the bell ringers, or you're going to answer the bell ringers on there. We're going to go over our notes from yesterday, so I'm going to go in depth about how everything works right there. And then we're going to go to the assignment. So the middle part of here is me going through our notes. And then at the end, we'll show you what the assignment is going to be in. Because we've got a bunch of notes to tackle, we're just going to dive right into it here. Cellular respiration. What it is that respiration is how our cells get energy from the food that we eat. Primarily, this molecule known as glucose, which is the sugar that is the sugar of all sugars, basically, if you want to think of it that way. And during the process of respiration, basically our food gets broken down into these smaller molecules, and then inside of our cells, it breaks apart the sugar even further to release the energy that is stored up inside. So there are two stages that basically happen for respiration. And it's similar to our process that we're going to be looking at later on, which is photosynthesis, where it is the plants taking in sunlight to produce these sugars. We're going to look at it from our side first. And when I say our side, I'm meaning animals. But animals, plants, fungi, everything ends up doing respiration. So it is not just an animal thing, even though we compare it from like animals to plants, but plants will do this process as well. What we end up doing, we end up getting sugar and oxygen. So sugar we eat. Nom, 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 nom. When we eat something, it breaks down into sugar, specifically carbohydrates, that is. The other things are going to break down. Fats are going to break down into fats. Proteins break down into proteins. The oxygen we get by breathing in. We're getting our oxygen. This primarily right here, this reaction, this respiration thing, is why we need oxygen when we breathe. It is to carry out this process, because without it, we would not have energy, we would not do anything, we would not survive without it. So if you've ever thought about why oxygen is so important, not just that we need to breathe it to stay alive, this is the reason for that. Respiration is the reason. What happens is that when we get that, those first two things, sugar and oxygen, we mix them together, happens inside of our cells. The reaction happens, and then on the aftermath, we end up making water and carbon dioxide from that and giving off a little bit of energy. It is that energy that we then use to power on everything that we have inside of our cells. If you take a look at this formula here at the bottom of the slide, you've got this big old sugar molecule, and then it says inside C6H12O6. That is how many hydrogens, carbons, and oxygens you would need. So you'd need 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, 6 oxygens, just in that one sugar molecule alone. We bring in 6 oxygen molecules to it. That's what ends up needing for the reaction happens. That's what the arrow means. The reaction happens. Boom. We end up getting carbon dioxide and water then on the other side, and it releases this energy. Now, this energy is called ATP because it's actually a molecule of energy. It's kind of weird to think about, but energy comes in a form of a molecule. It stands for adenosine triphosphate. We usually just call it ATP, but that is the energy that we need to carry out our day-to-day processes. Got some more of the slideshows that you take care of there. Stage 1, so it happens in 2 stages. In stage 1, it takes place in the cytoplasm. And really, not much of anything happens here. The molecules are taken in. They get broken down a little bit to make them smaller so that our next part can handle it easier. But oxygen isn't involved yet. With oxygen is the key to breaking apart the stuff into getting us energy. So it only makes a small amount of energy. Only a little bit gets produced. If we had to put a number on it, somewhere I think between 2 ATP get created here, which is very low compared to what number I'm going to say next. Stage number 2 is where all the energy happens at. It takes place in the mitochondria. Remember, it's the powerhouse of our cell, so it is going to be supplying a lot of the energy. How it does that is by breaking apart these molecules. So what happens is that using oxygen, the mitochondria actually uses the oxygen that you take in when you breathe, and then what happens is that it also is going to grab a sugar molecule, and it uses the oxygen to basically tear apart the sugar molecule. And when it tears apart the sugar molecule, it is using all of the carbon and hydrogen and oxygen that is in that sugar molecule. When it rips it apart, it is breaking it apart into the base pieces, and the mitochondria then has to reform things. And it's not going to put back together the sugar because then it just lost all the energy. In order to separate it out and keep the energy for itself, it turns the sugar and oxygen molecules into water and carbon dioxide, two things that we can just get rid of inside of our cells and boot back out to the outside world. It saves then the ATP energy behind and keeps it for when it needs to use energy later on in the day. So that's what this is basically saying there, is that this reaction produces then water and carbon dioxide, because as the mitochondria is using the oxygen to break apart the sugar molecule, it is causing the oxygen to split apart the carbons and hydrogens and everything in there to form these new molecules, because you can't just get rid of something. Everything has to still be there. They still have to have the same numbers. It's called the law of conservation of matter. Things can't be created nor destroyed. They can only just change forms. So when they change the form from sugar and oxygen into water and carbon dioxide, that allows for energy to be released. So that way when you breathe out, you're breathing out a lot of carbon dioxide, and you're also getting rid of some water vapor there. Now, if you want to keep, your cells have the option of keeping some of that water behind, or it can also be another waste product when you go to the bathroom. There's water in there as well. So it gets rid of water in a couple of different ways, but carbon dioxide is what you breathe out, oxygen is what you breathe in. There you just had to draw some pictures of it, leaving us this formula here at the end. We got the glucose and oxygen, carbon dioxide, water, and energy. As you can see, it makes 6 carbon dioxides and 6 waters at the end, mainly because it has to take care of this big old sugar molecule, and this big old sugar molecule has a bunch of carbons and a bunch of hydrogens to it, so we need to make the appropriate amount with what those pieces are left over. Then there's a video that kind of explains some of that stuff there at the end. So that's kind of a wrap up on our respiration. Let's take a look at the assignment for today, which will go to Tuesday. And it says assignment respiration questions. You'll open that up and give it a nice little preview build here for you. You got 10 questions. Some of them are coming from the notes. Some of them I'll have you be reading or looking at certain pictures to interpret there. So just some straight up questions. For these, you just have to give me what the 2 inputs are. For these, you have to give me what the 3 outputs are. It does not matter what order that they go in. I think I got it set up correctly so that it can happen in any order. You just got to give me the right ones. For some of these, I ask you to read the following short little passage. It's a couple of sentences, and then click on the correct answer for whatever one is being done in there. Some more questions happening. You've got these where it is a drop-down box, so you have to fill in the blank using the things that I have dropping down there. For this one, you also have to read the passage and then click on the correct terminology and the correct words that go along with everything. This one's a little bit longer of a thing, but you have a kind of summary of why kids seem to have more energy than adults. So I found this article online that kind of talks about that, so you'll read through it and answer the one question about it of why it seems that kids always have a lot of energy, but maybe adults don't. It's kind of interesting as what they found out about it. And then you'll submit it when you're done. This is one where you have multiple attempts, so you can take it multiple times if you want to score your highest score on it. If you have any questions, let me know. Email it up if you need to email me, but that is the end of our video here. I know it went a little bit long there with the going over the notes, but still underneath 10 minutes there, so should be good as far as what you need to be doing for things. So with that being said, hope you have a wonderful day today. Hope to see you back with us soon, and see you later.